Philip, I'll be honest with you, mate. Times are tough. I'm starting a brand new region of Survivor, and new people will be watching the video, and I'm scared they won't like me. So Philip, if you could give me some sort of segue into the video, I'll be forever grateful.
I'm just ingenious. Everything I do is just ingenious.
Philip, I'm naming my firstborn after you. Whether you're a bra or brew, how do you do? I'm Bandit, today looking over 5 ingenious moves by our favourite Survivor South Africans. Remember to like and sub if you enjoyed, because it lets me know you're enjoying my content. And let's go. At number 1, we begin with Survivor South Africa champions, and it's not the champion of the season, but a champion in my heart, Tevin. You see, Survivor South Africa don't do things by halves, so the swap was interesting. Unknown to the contestants, the challenge they were competing in would determine their swap tribes. The challenge itself involved tribe members being given a survey, answering truthfully what contestant related best to the question, and then having to answer the questions publicly. It's essentially the Survivor US's touchy subject challenge. They all started at the top of a staircase and moved down a step with every correct answer. When someone stepped onto the ground, they then had to go through a turntable, and importantly, in the event of a tie, the person closest to the presenter Nico, went to the turntable first. This turntable led them to a new staircase where they would end up on Utara or Selatan 2.0. So Tevin does incredible by getting question after question correct until he's one step away from winning. And here's the round winning question.
Next question. Who is the main provider on your tribe?
This is probably the easiest question of them all. Zan and Tevin literally said at their last tribal that they were the providers. All he has to do to win the round is spell his own name. Something he's been doing since he wore nappies. Is that how you spell Tevin in South African? No? So let's look into why he threw the challenge. To begin, Tevin immediately identifies it's a swap, unlike his peers, giving him a major advantage.
I know what the next answer is. I can definitely answer the next question correctly, but I don't particularly want to. I don't want to be up there and not be in control of my own destiny and just kind of end up with whatever team's there.
He knows he doesn't have to come first. This isn't a reward challenge. And that's key. Tevin instead hangs back on the bottom step while others complete the challenge before him. While others simply thought they were ending up on different coloured staircases, Tevin understood these stairs dictated the new tribes. The longer he hung back, the more he saw of the new swap tribes. His strategy was ingenious. So ingenious in fact that Nico gets annoyed and starts to call him out, which is hilarious.
Tevin. Says Mark, I'm starting to get the feeling that you're deliberately messing up your answers there, Tevin. Am I correct in my assessment?
But Tevin also places himself beside Nico, making him the leftmost person. This means he doesn't have to rely on luck to ensure the turntable leads him to his desired tribe. If the turntable leads him to the tribe he wants, all he has to do is get the question correct, step down, and walk on ahead. Tevin only answered correctly, however, when he saw Utara 2.0 had a guaranteed number of his old Utara friends. Later on, after figuring out it's a swap, Shane implements his strategy too. For him, he needed to return to the Utara beach where he buried his idol. So he too holds back until he's the player furthest left on the bottom step, then gets the question right when the turntable has turned towards Utara 2.0. Tevin's strategy really shows the strength in paying attention during Survivor, as he made it to the swap with his guaranteed numbers. Can you keep a secret? At number 2, we're going into Season 7, Island of Secrets, with some ingenious moves that happened on the island itself. This was a Ghost Island-esque twist, where contestants would be selected and were able to gain advantages. In episode 5, Geoffrey was selected to visit the island, and he had a moral dilemma. He could either pick dry firewood for his tribe or a secret jar of sweets. And obviously, after dropping the jar on the ground and eviscerating a handful of sweets, Geoffrey chose the intended deceitful option. Except it wasn't. Geoffrey brings back his jar of sweets and gives them to his tribe.
At this stage, I'm still going over the moral implications of eating the entire bowl of sweets, or hiding it in my pockets, or taking some of it back. I haven't quite decided on a way forward.
Now, some may call this a fluke, but Australian Survivor had the same moral dilemma between wood and a secret jar of goodies, where Jericho picked the jar. He then told Henry, fed Luke, fed Henry, fed Sarah, and then for good measure, garnished Henry's head with cookie crumbs while he slept. Like a good friend. So there's a track record for sweeties being not so secret. Plus, imagine you're Geoffrey revealing the jar of sweets to your tribe mates and trying to give them some. Is production really going to confiscate the sweets and try to make the tribe mates forget all about them? Of course not. Geoffrey even acknowledges the advantages these sweets have over the firewood in confessionals from a social and sustenance perspective.
Everybody's munching on the sweets and it's happy at the camp, and it's for my own advantage as well. I'm not doing it for them. I want to make them strong. They people that are going to win the challenges for me. So let them eat a few sweets before the challenge of so be, and then at least we can start winning.
But it doesn't end there. Geoffrey, when he returns from the island, explains he had 3 options to pick: the sweets, duh, firewood, double duh, or an advantage for himself. Wait, what? Yep. Geoffrey made up a 3rd option, and that was for a reason. It allowed him to gain favour from the tribe for picking the non-selfish option, and everyone believed him. Had he stated the dilemma was between firewood and a secret jar of sweets, the perceived selfish option, he would be seen in a less favourable light, but introduces a 3rd variable to be the selfish option to paint his decision in a more positive light. Plus, it makes him look like a team player and lowers his threat level. Everyone now sees him as someone that isn't interested in advantages, so there's less paranoia about him having an idol. But Geoffrey isn't the only one with treats, because at 2.5 I also added Rocco's Island of Secrets experience. So technically you're all getting 6 ingenious moves in this video. I'm just such a nice guy, aren't I? At the beginning of the game, each tribe had to pick a leader figure during the marooning, which then were sent to the Island of Secrets. Much like Geoffrey, Rocco had a moral dilemma. He could pick an idol clue or flint for the tribe. This decision's tough. There's 3 perceived options. You either pick the flint and be selfless like Rocco does, you can pick the idol clue like Paul, but share it to your tribe, losing your advantage but preventing suspicion, or you pick the idol clue and keep it a secret like Cobus, but everyone is skeptical. Each dilemma either risks you having a target or losing out on a private idol clue. Or you pull a Rocco. See, as already stated, Rocco picked the flint. This immediately lowers his threat level. Especially modern day, when you go to one of these islands, it's expected you bring something back, and if you show nothing then you're hiding something. Ta'Alo even talks about this when Tanya goes to the Island of Secrets.
Let's hope she shows up with something. If she shows up with something like flint or thought, then we know she obviously doesn't have the idol.
Yeah.
And or clue or something. Yeah. Then we just leave the conversation for the rest of the day and just wham bam, thank you ma'am.
But when Paul goes for a swim, Rocco snags the clue out of his trouser pocket and reads it for himself, essentially giving him both advantages because the clues are all the same. This allows him knowledge while also keeping the quote-unquote good guy mentality, as we talked about with Jeff previously. Now the issue is Rocco doesn't find the idol with the clue and still ends up at the bottom of the tribe due to his bad social gameplay, but the groundwork has been laid by Rocco for a more savvy player willing to test the boundaries of the game to gain an advantage. I'm not gonna lie, all this idle talk is making me tired, so I decided to invite my buddy FlynnMasters to talk about ingenious move number 3, talking about an idle ideology that defined a season. Over to you, Flynn.
The next ingenious move from Survivor Sotuh Africa comes from Season 5, Survivor SA Champions. Despite Season 6 being the season that really got South Africa on the map, I think Season 5 was the true first great season of Survivor Sotuh Africa. Despite the rules of this season, or should I say, lack of rules, really having a massive impact on the season. In Survivor SA Champions, the contestants were actually allowed to steal idols from the other players, and yes, while this is completely unfair, this also made for some great television, and overall, ingenious gameplay. At the tribe swap, the old Skeleton tribe wanted to keep their numbers strong, so they came to a decision with their sports captain Cornet to give their tribe idol to Jenna, who was in the minority on the new Atara.
Game plan.
How are we saving Jenna?
I don't think that's possible.
It is possible.
How?
We can slip the idol in our bag. And then to open up our off. We can let her know it.
The plan is that I slip the immunity idol into Jenna's bag. I'm happy to do that.
However, Shane and Marion, two of the greatest villains in the history of Survivor SA, lured Jenna away from her bag, stole her idol, and voted her out that very same episode. Absolutely ruthless. We also saw the power of relationships play a massive role in the stealing of the idols this season as well. After his ally of Marion got voted out at the merge, Shane's closest ally in the game was now Sivu. But after Shane was blindsided with 2 idols at the final 7, Sivu used his relationship and trust he built with Shane to propel him to the final 3. Shane told Sivu about his idols and left one of them back at camp. Thus, Sivu picked up the idol for himself, and to the absolute shock of everyone at the final 5, he nullified the majority vote as he and Boulay took out Xavion, who was a massive all-around threat. Again, I think we can all agree that it's better to have fair rules when it comes to something like the idol, but nonetheless, you have to admire the innovative ways the players of Survivor SA Champions handled these idol rules, making for some pretty ingenious gameplay.
And if you're like David's idol, living under a rock with no idea who that man was, his channel is linked in the description down below. Give him some love and check out his content because you'll have one hell of a time. Get it? Because he reviews Hell's Kitchen and they both have hell in the... Where was I again? At number 4, we dive into Survivor South Africa, and all this kitchen talk must have made Werner hungry, because we're talking about him literally eating an idol clue on Survivor. No, this legitimately did happen. Now, Werner is one of the biggest names in Survivor South Africa, and definitely will be featuring in other Ingenious Moves videos, but this move during the marooning is one quite often underappreciated in my opinion. We've seen from other international seasons, like Australian Survivor 2017, that even a trace of an idol can paint a target on someone. And being found in possession of an idol clue can genuinely be the cause for a person's elimination. Many others have been eliminated for less. Plus, I don't know if you guys knew this, but the number after 5 is 6, making Philliphines the season after champions, which, as already stated, involve people having no privacy. All it takes is one person to look through your bag and blow up your position, or use your idol clue to snag the idol from under your nose. Isn't that right, Jock? In fact, we even saw one of Werner's tribe mates Martinez having his bag raided very early into the game, where the contestant searched his belongings and inspired Werner to make his ingenious move.
We found a typed up speech for winners in the final 3. Also because I perceived that
So Werner, in fear of being found holding on to the idol clue, goes to town on the parchment and chows down on it. He might as well. After all he had to memorize was a specific word in Tremule. Because of this, Werner keeps his threat level low and obtains an idol, which is key to his later moves. The final ingenious move on this list involves the man in the thumbnail, Tevin. On return of the Outcasts, Tevin was voted by his tribe mates to receive an outpost idol. This hidden immunity idol was pretty quirky, mandating Tevin to play it on one person. This person was one of the 10 contestants on the merged tribe that lost the first immunity challenge. It's also important to note that the Outpost twist featured 2 representatives from each tribe, Seamus and Thuriso for the pre-mergers, and Steffi plus Shane with an adorable little scarf for the post-mergers. At this section of the game, tea was spilt, and no, it wasn't caused by Geoffrey, but rather his fellow Season 7 players Steffi and Shane. They put forth the notion that Tejan was on the outs in their tribe, when he really wasn't, but figured he'd be the easiest sell due to him being the only Season 4 player.
Yeah, there's no immediate name from our side. Do you guys have someone that you think
Yeah, actually. We both agreed straight up, Tejan. So, you saw us agree in unison.
So while they never intended to target Tejan, perception is everything on Survivor, and Seamus plus Theriso deemed this to be the case before informing their tribe. Before the merged tribal, Tevin also runs us through his plan to play the idol on Palessa, someone he never got to play with on his original season. At their tribal, Tevin hangs back, hearing the ongoing tribal, and like a sponge absorbs all the information of the chaos happening on their tribe. They're very fractured as a group, it's clear, and can explain why they lost the challenge in spite of having individually strong performers. In fact, it's identified several times at the tribal by some of the merge players. They should be keeping a zip on their tribe gossip, considering Tevin was only several feet away. When Nico asks Tevin if he has any questions, expecting the questions from Tevin to be clarifying the powers of his idol, he instead goes for the jugular and lets the tribe know Shane and Steffi wanted his tribe to write down Tejan because he was a weak link.
We just want to know why Shane, you and Steffi told us to vote for Tejan. I'd just like to relay that information back to my tribe.
Interesting.
That's quite easy.
Just interested to know why you guys didn't tell us this part of your story.
The reactions explain themselves, as this seems to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Tevin held the information back perfectly and waited for the knockout punch. It's also ingenious because Tevin has very little personal backlash. Think about it, Steffi and Shane have little leverage against him now that Seamus and Theriso have been shown to screw them over more, Tejan distrusts them, and the entire rest of the tribe dislike that they didn't reveal this key information. It's low risk for a decent reward. Tevin also plays his idol well by playing it on Palessa, which builds bonds with the player he has some pre-season relationship with, but not to the degree of him, PK and Tony. Plus, considering PK's elimination in episode 2, it allows him more agency than saving his closest allies in Tony or PK, something people thought he would do. And if episode 2's challenge is anything to go by, Tevin's bond with the tribal continues their lack of teamwork. Obviously this season is still ongoing, so I don't know how Tevin does. For all I know, he could be a boot in a few days' time, but I feel he played this situation optimally by dropping the key info at the right time and played his idol on probably the best person he could have. And with that, it marks the end of the video. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed it, as you already know by now, hit the subscribe button as we begin the climb to 400 subscribers. Once again, major thanks to Flynn for assisting me for this episode as I begin my journey into making Survivor South Africa content. But that's all from me. Comment down below any ingenious moves you'd like me to cover in future videos, and peace.